Washington State says no to a blanket ban and an open category for transgender high school athletes. The person at the center of last fall's San Jose State University volleyball controversy had her say in the New York Times this week. Cal Calamia, set to make history at the London Marathon, says it's time to act on bringing non-binary athletes into all sports. And Paula Griffin, a folk hero in English football, sits down with us to talk about being trans in Britain and being great on the pitch. Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay-Webb. Up front, the member schools of the Washington Interscholastic Athletics Association voted down two proposals pertaining to transgender student athletes Monday. Amendment 7, a blanket ban on transgender girls in high school sports, fell one vote shy of the 60% threshold needed to implement passage. Amendment 8 would have brought in an open category to allow transgender student athletes to compete. It was voted down 40-13. Now, both proposals, even if passed, would not have been implemented unless there would have been changes to Washington State's laws pertaining to their protections for transgender people. But there is a proposal for that working through the machinery in Olympia right now. House Bill 1699. Brought to you by, really? Like you had to guess? Who else? The Republicans.
Transphobia for a stronger America.
HB 1699, the Defending Equity in Interscholastic Sports Act, I'll tell you, if you read it, all the things, it calls for things that are very much un-Republican, such as this clause. Schools may provide separate teams for each sex. Schools which provide the following shall do so with no disparities based on sex. When have you heard a Republican say that one? That includes equipment, supplies, medical care, services, insurance, transportation, per diem allowances, etc., etc. In short, the Republicans have turned feminist in Washington? But here's the caveat. Except is provided in Section 2 of the Act. Now, what is Section 2 of the Act? Oh, quote, policies, procedures, rules, and other requirements adopted in accordance with RCW 28A by a school district or board of directors or a voluntary nonprofit entity that may prohibit biologically male students from competing with female students. Transphobia for a strong America. And any dispute regarding a student's sex must be resolved by the school district by requesting that the student provide a health examination and consent form by the student's personal health care provider that verifies the student's biological sex. The health care provider may verify the student's biological sex as part of a routine sports physical examination, relying on one or more of the following: the student's reproductive anatomy, genetic makeup, or normal endogenously produced testosterone levels. In short, we reserve the right to look down your pants. Now, this is what the lead sponsor of this bill, Spokane Republican Representative Mike Voles, said about it.
It's not some sort of, anti-trans or attack against the trans community. They have rights like everybody else. I just think the women's space should be protected and safeguarded.
Now, Representative Voles is from Spokane, the hometown of the person this bill and these proposals targets, a student at Spokane East Valley High School named Veronica Garcia. You see, last season as a junior on her school's track team, Garcia won the state Class 2A title at 400 meters. She was the first transgender student athlete in state history to win an individual state title, and that led to a number of districts with schools in 2A to put up proposals which were led by the district of Cedar Crest and Linden. Now, Linden's superintendent was out front of this. He was one of the architects of the proposal. Here's what he had to say.
We heard very clearly from our female student athletes that competing against athletes who had gone through male puberty felt unfair to them.
Now, what do Cedar Crest and Linden have in common? Let's take a flashback to a report we did in December on this. Well, last year in the state track meet in Class 2A girls competition, Cedar Crest was second in the team standings. They lost by 8 points. Linden was third. They lost by 11. Both are under the idea that they lost to the eventual champion, East Valley High School in Spokane, because of a certain girl named Veronica Garcia. Yeah, that Veronica Garcia. You know, the girl who is trans who won the 400 meters. And they felt that because she won, thus her presence, fully eligible, mind you, according to the rules in concert with Washington State's human rights laws, are the reason why they didn't win the state championship. But looking event for event, that's not necessarily the case. First, East Valley won more events, and they scored where Cedar Crest and Linden weren't, and they limited the losses when they outscored them. If you really want to know what athlete outscored these two teams, oh, by the way, East Valley in 2023 scored 19 points and finished 14th. Now, the major factor wasn't Garcia. It was the 28 points scored in the 800, 1600, and 3200 meter runs by a girl for East Valley named Logan Hosty. Now, she's a two-time state cross-country champ, didn't compete at the state track and field meet in 2023. In 2024, again, second at 800, first in the 1600 and the 3200. Now, in the 1600 and the 3200, Cedar Crest had no one in the event, and thus lost maximum points. Another factor over all of this is the Trump executive order on transgender girls and women in sports. The state of Washington, rated by journalist and policy analyst Aaron Reed as the safest U.S. state for transgender people right now, have a Democratic majority in their legislature and a Democratic governor. And that majority is aggressively pushing legislation designed to, quote, Trump-proof their state's LGBTQ legal protections. Meanwhile, Garcia's doing what she do. She's just running. She won the 400 meters and finished fourth in the 200 meters at a 40-team invite in Cheney, Washington last weekend. This week in the New York Times, there was a feature story on the backwash of the story of last fall in sports, the San Jose State Mountain West Conference volleyball crisis. The difference between this story and others is that the voice we heard from was the voice many of us were waiting to hear from. Blair Fleming, then senior outside hitter for San Jose State and presumed to be trans by certain people with certain social political axe to grind. Well, Fleming spoke out via a series of interviews with the New York Times that became a feature that ran in New York Times Magazine on Sunday. First, Fleming did confirm that she is trans, but as expected, she just wanted to play volleyball, go to college, fly under the radar. She is quoted as saying that teammates at San Jose State knew about it, coaches knew about it, the school knew about it, but she wanted to disclose it player for player. To her, it wasn't a big deal, and to the team, it wasn't a big deal until a certain Brooks Slusser came in as a transfer in 2023. And then it became a deal. We all know the story from there. Fleming was also quoted in the article in the New York Times as saying, quote, it was the last season was the darkest period of her life. And of course, one of the people that made a lot of hay of it was a certain Jennifer Say. Jennifer Say, the CEO of the anti-trans advocacy group LARPing as a clothing label, XXXY Athletics. And she was also part of this next story, Boston Marathon. First, little congrats. Kenya's John Career winning the men's elite race in 2 hours, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. And that's moving for a course that's difficult as Boston. Also on the women's side, congrats to fellow Kenyan Sharon Lokedi. She decimated the course record in 2 hours, 17 minutes, 22 seconds. Again, that's moving for a course as difficult as Heartbreak Hill. Happy trails to Des Linden, the American distance ace, calling it career at her favorite marathon. In 2018, she won this race. And congrats to Whit Blair, who took on the non-binary division at the Boston Marathon, 2 hours, 22 minutes, 44 seconds. But this race had a controversy over a complaint that came from that same aforementioned Mrs. Say concerning an op-ed that she wrote in the New York Post about a particular runner in the race. As far as we know, the only out transgender woman in the race. They dead named this woman, demonized her in print, and a supporter of XXXY, who herself was a runner, threatened that she was going to drop out of the race if this woman was allowed to run. Well, the truth is stranger than the fiction, and the truth was provided by your good friend and mine, Frankie De La Creta.
Does anyone remember this lady? She went viral saying that she was going to drop out of the Boston Marathon because she heard that there was a trans woman who was allowed to run in the women's division. Her name is Natalie Daniels, and she didn't drop out of the Boston Marathon. She ran the Boston Marathon. She finished an hour and a half ahead of the woman that she claimed had a competitive advantage over her. Natalie Daniels ran a sub 3-hour marathon and is complaining about a master's athlete who is like 55 years old. Like, babe, Natalie, how are you not so embarrassed about this? Also, you see that shirt Natalie's wearing? That shirt is from the XXXY Athletics page. This is a transphobic brand that makes shirts that are strictly about how trans women don't belong in women's sports. XXXY Athletics is founded by Jennifer Say. She and her company are also well known for offering to reward cis women who drop out in protest when there's a trans woman competing against them. So they actually pay cis women to drop out in protest and offer financial incentives for doing so.
And Frankie wasn't the only one to drag this person. American distance ace Nikki Hiltz also did. Here's what they had to say.
There were going to be men in the women's field of the Boston Marathon. My first instinct was to drop out.
Then drop out. This person is upset because the Boston Marathon has allowed trans women to compete. And it's like, I don't understand why that takes anything away from you. If you want to throw a fit and be like, I want to drop out, then drop out. I thought the whole point of a marathon was to get the best out of yourself. See, like, how fast can I complete this 26 miles? And can I have fun along the way? And can I, like, try new courses and maybe explore the world? I don't know. Are you going to win the women's division or take prize money? I don't think so. So I don't understand the what you're upset about. Like, are you mad because instead of 900th, you're going to take 900th and first because a trans woman maybe beats you? You know that trend that's going on right now? Like, oh, I forgot this was the point. This person forgot what the point of a marathon is. It's to complete 26.2 miles and maybe make some friends along the way. Trans women are not stopping you from doing that.
And not to be outdone, two of the coolest cats in sports, Cal Calamia and Skylar Vilar, who spoke out while preparing for this weekend's London Marathon.
Boston Marathon allows transgender athletes?
Absolutely.
The Boston Marathon allows trans athletes to compete in gender-aligned categories, and people are throwing a fit.
So here are some facts. The Boston Marathon has allowed trans women to compete in the women's division since at least 2018.
And there has been no trans woman domination that everybody's afraid of. In fact, not even one trans woman has won the women's category.
Research shows that trans women do not have a biological advantage. Actually, some research indicates trans women have a disadvantage compared to their cis counterparts.
This year, there are over 30,000 people running the Boston Marathon, and of those people, everybody seems to be freaking out about one trans woman in the women's category.
Trans athletes didn't just come out of nowhere. We've been here, and it has never bothered you before.
And that's because transphobia is actually what's new. Trans athletes are not. Don't get tricked into thinking that trans athletes threaten sports when transphobia is really the threat.
It'll be the first marathon for the trailblazing Harvard swimmer in his life. Skylar, good luck. Your first marathon in a major, more power to you. But for Calamia, this would complete the string of the world's major marathons for them. And at all of them, they've been doing a lot of pushing the last few years to get non-binary divisions. Sports needs to continue to progress beyond just running.
I think non-binary divisions need to exist in every sport eventually. I think it's harder with team sports because we need to acquire the numbers, but I've also experienced that if you build it, they will come. And I think just because I'm advocating for a non-binary division actually doesn't mean that I think that every trans-masculine person and every trans-feminine person needs to participate in that division. I still believe that trans people that feel they exist more on a binary should be able to participate in those binary divisions.
Calamia said they would be, quote, racing for trans people across the globe in their quest this weekend at the London Marathon. Cal, you know how I feel about you. Good luck and good hunting. Elsewhere in the Trans Joy Hunt, let's check out, is that Dr. Veronica Ivy with a golf club? The two-time World Track Cycling champ has been hitting some big irons and some big drives on the golf course. Checked out her Instagram. She's got some serious swing and she's making a push for competitive play. Stay tuned. And a shout out to Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison. The former congressman stepped to the front this week and said, "You're not going to do to Minnesota what you did to Maine." He is filing a preemptive lawsuit against the Trump administration over the Trump administration's executive orders that are trying to ride down hard on transgender kids. But it's not just that he's putting up the lawsuit, it's the things he said, including something very important when someone asked him, will this cost you an election in 2026?
Well, I got to tell you, my election numbers are not on my mind. And the other thing is that, and if they ever creeped into my mind, I would banish them. I will never make a moral calculation based on my electoral prospects. Just won't do it. I will tell you, I would rather lose than sell out trans kids.
Attorney General Ellison, good on you. That's exactly the energy that transgender Americans need right now. When we return to Transposition Sports, we have a football folk hero from the UK talking about celebrating the game and celebrating her life. We have a conversation with Paula Griffin. But first, some messages from our cat with the bars, Kirby, and the angry gay grandpa. Get your Kleenex out now.
Meow, yeah, 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 meow, yeah. Wait a minute, Kitty's gonna get it. 4 paws in when I'm standing on business. I'm the kitten, all the rhinos bitten. This show can handle all the kittens that I'm getting. I'm not a beginner, no, I'm a winner. Hurry up, Curly, go get me my dinner. If Curly can spit rhymes, so can I. I'm Kirby the Cat. We'll be back.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
and welcome back to Transposition Sports. Along with Kirby the Cat, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. One thing we strive to do at Transposition Sports is we bring on the athletes themselves and get their stories. That has been a constant over the last year since we've had this special segment as part of Transpositions News. But tonight, someone special, a folk hero, if you will. 8 years ago, Paula Griffin was staring down the barrel of mortality, fighting cancer. And along the way, she said that was just the nudge in the arc she needed to move forward, move into her truth, and move into a life that, quite frankly, if you sent it to Hollywood, they'd laugh you out the studio. But it all happened. In that time, she started her transition. She hiked the Andes up to Machu Picchu. She saw the world. And along the way, she made sure that sheets for a number of football teams across London were clean as a goalkeeper. Also on social media, she's become something of a touchstone, something, like I said, a folk hero, who's influenced a lot of trans people worldwide, including this reporter. And it's an honor to have her here tonight. Paula Griffin, welcome to Transposition Sports. I've wanted this interview for quite a while.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely blushing. I was in tears listening to those words. It's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much.
Well, right out of the gate, you're at the point where either one of two things happen in English football. You're either being celebrated or relegated. You're going to have a lot of celebrations. It looks like you've already won a couple of championships.
Yeah. So I mean, I play for three teams in the heart on mainly. So one of which is Clapton, as you see in the background there. So I play for their reserve team, and this season we won our league. We always went unbeaten, lost just the one game, but scored over 100 goals, kept 8 clean sheets, and conceded less than a goal a game. I also played for a team called Gold Diggers, which plays outside the FA. It's a non-FA football, and they were the first team I actually played for when I came out. Literally, when I came out, it was just to get myself fit again, to enjoy playing football, and it was. I never really expected sort of things to grow as they did, to smile as they did, and this season we play in a league called the London Women's Saturday Football League, Premier Division, and this season, for the first time, we won the league. As a team, we've grown in that league from losing games by double-digit scores to being the first time we've actually won it. And we also reached the cup final this year as well. We won a penalty shootout last week, and so we have a cup final on May the 17th. And another team I play for is Peckham Town, which a friend of mine, again, asked me to join because they needed a goalkeeper. And again, they were losing quite heavily when I joined and got relegated for their first season. But I've come back, just missed out on promotion last season, the last game. Finished third again this season. And on Saturday this week, we have a cup semi-final. And we could also be reaching the final. Again, it's the same league. It's the London Women's Saturday Football League. So it could be a case that I'm playing in 2 finals on the same day for 2 different teams.
2 final. Okay, now exactly how are you going to deal with like the energy management, keeping yourself hydrated? How do you deal with that? 2 matches, same day, high stakes.
It's incredible. It's again, I think a lot of that I feel from people of sport around me. I mean, I previously last season I played 3 11 games back to back, so that's 90-minute games. So for 3 different sides, and 2 of them lost the second one. But I think again, the stamina I built in myself, not just from beating cancer, but also from being out of my true self, that has given me so much strength and belief. And I'm moving forward every day. I've got people around me that I play alongside, that support and give me strength. It's not just the players I play with, as the players I play against. I've made so many friends and allies in women's football. It's humbling sometimes. It really is.
Now, with that in mind, though, what's it like to be trans in Britain right now, inside the game and outside the game?
It's very much mixed feelings because you're feeling as a trans player, as an out trans player, and high profile, I suppose, that you're constantly under attack by people who don't actually care for women's football. We've got right wing commentators, cis male right wing commentators, they're constantly attacking us, but they're not standing up for the things that really matter in men's football. The racism, the misogyny, the lack of finances, the lack of representation, and these are the things that really matter in men's football. There are very few trans women actually play in FA affiliated football. Yet we're being vilified as an excuse. But I suppose because people they want to create this weaponize our very existence, and you know, we just all we want to do is play football, enjoy a game, and get on with it. We're playing alongside our friends, we're playing alongside our allies. In the UK, there's hundreds of thousands of women play football every Saturday, every Sunday, and yet there's probably 20 trans women who actually have the FA approval to play. So how can we take over sport? We couldn't even get a match between us.
The FA recently put their policy out to the public. They called it a revision, but really, in many ways, they're just standing firm as a player. Given all the other things in the legal sense and the judicial sense that are happening in the UK, how important was it that the FA said we're going to continue to stand on inclusive policy?
It was incredibly important. I mean, as a sport, women's football is it's very rare in UK sports that is actually represented at the highest level by players who play the game. A lot of people I play alongside, they're actually involved with the FA, and they're the people making these decisions. They're the ones. It's not being decided by old men in suits, but in the dusty old corridors of the FA. It's just been decided by the women that play the game.
The Supreme Court decision. Gut reaction when you first heard it?
I was shocked, to be honest. When I first heard it, I thought, "Oh God, what's happened here?" This is suddenly because I have a GRC, the gender recognition certificate. I have an updated passport. I have a corrected birth certificate. And suddenly I thought, am I going to see what's happening in the States? Where people are suddenly applying for a passport, it's coming back with the incorrect gender on there because of gut political interference. As things are starting to settle in, I'm starting to think, okay, how things really changed because we now have two laws that possibly contradictory to one another. We have a gender recognition act that says, I'm female, I'm the sex on my gender recognition certificate. Yet suddenly we have this decision of the High Court which can reverse that. I'm sort of taking a step back at the moment, taking on board what's happened. I mean, the good thing to me is I'm not seeing anything change in my daily life yet. I mean, it's less than a fortnight since the decision was made. It's obviously I'm waiting to debate in Parliament. I mean, unfortunately, we already had Keir Starmer come out with his phrase that he suddenly flip flopped from this is the man who marched the parade with trans rights flag in his hand is now suddenly sort of coming out with trans women are not women. So what are they scared of the right wing and is now weaponising this? I don't know.
You talked about things haven't changed in your daily life yet.
Yeah.
But 8 years ago, you made a massive change. A quote from an article I picked up about you. I resolved to root out the things in my life that caused to get me to this situation. I threw my cigarettes in the bin, stopped the heavy drinking, and finally admitted to myself I was transgender and began transitioning. You've battled cancer, you dealt with transition at the same time, and then in your 50s, you decided, I want to play football.
Would you believe a football shirt did it to me? During the pandemic, well, obviously because my transition sort of crossed through the pandemic, and in those days, Twitter wasn't a toxic swamp, so there was a good trans community on there, and I bumped into a fellow trans footballer, Sammy Walker, and she had to mention that football team had done a shirt celebrating queer women, trans and cis in football to celebrate or to mark, should I say, 100 years since the FA banned women from playing football. So I found this shirt. I love the shirt. There's all these sort of queer women on it, trans women, cis women, and also this gorgeous one, which they call the Captain's Kiss. So it's two captains from a pre 1921 England France international kissing each other before the game. And I got a lovely design. So I started following this football team and discovered they were an inclusive football team and they had special dispensation for trans players. So as pandemic eased, I thought, well, let's get this off better, Paula. And so I went on for a training session, absolutely scared out of my wits, to be honest. First they turned up, wandered over, sort of by the football pitch and sort of running around trying to find people. And they literally took me under wing for my first session. I was so actually unfit at the time that my leg totally seized up. I couldn't walk for literally a week and a half. My leg was, but I persevered and I got better. I started off playing outfield. Um, then somebody needed a goalkeeper game, so I played in goal when I was a lot younger. I'd last played in goal about 15 years previously. I hadn't really played much football at that time, simply because one, due to my health, and two, due to my gender identity, and got playing again and said, well, yeah, hey, it's still there, the talent's still there, and because I've been coached by, especially by female coaches, the difference in positivity, and I just found that confidence in myself. And I think one of the things I always say to people is, if you learn to turn off that fear switch in life, it's so good for goalkeeping. And you just, I'm not afraid of anything. When I'm on the football field, I'm not afraid anymore. So I get out there and just do it.
Turning off the fear switch. My team's first game is this week. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. Now, with that in mind, complete this sentence. The special thing about my goalkeeping is blank.
Ooh. I mean, positivity from teammates and coaches. That is, it's other people who get me there. I'm literally, it's not, to me, it's, I always think, say that other teams, when, they say, Paula, you made a great save. It takes a great shot to make a great save. So I always make a point of complimenting other players out there, because without them, I'm nothing.
What has it meant for you all these years to have the type of support that you've had across your teams? We have oftentimes when you hear about, especially trans women in sports, you hear so much about, like, even in England. You heard about the protests earlier this year where Blair Hamilton was playing, for example.
Yes.
The gender criticals come out. What has it meant for you that within the dressing room, on the pitch with your team, and also with other teams, that people like, we know Paula's trans, we don't care, she's on the field with us, we support her? What's that been like for you, knowing that support's there?
It was, I think struck me was when I first got referred to my gender identity, I had my first appointment. And the first thing one of the first things I was asked was, do you have a support network? And it took only a few seconds. I've got a massive support network. are people I can turn to in football. These people, without them, I would not be where I am. I mean, I've had players come up to me at the end of the game and say, Paula, I've read your story, and I wasn't supporting trans people before, but I am now, and to listen to you, and just to change, if I'm just, change and bring other people's attitude and bring their support, it's incredible feeling. I mean, other goalkeepers, they say, Paula, you're my idol. I look at the way you play, and it's it's humbling.
I want to go back to another piece of your past.
Yeah.
4 years ago, you're wearing a kit for a very different team. It was a kit that was done in trans pride colors. It was Truck United. What did it mean to you then, and what does it mean to you now? To know that you're always a part of that history.
Not only was it playing for truck, but it was against Dulles Hamlets, who I've been involved with for far too many years. So I've worked with them. Well, not really worked. Been a volunteer for that club for 30 odd years, sort of helping out at the club. It was probably again part of my workaholic things. I was doing everything there, turnstiles on the committee. But to play against that team was, I mean, these players become my friends. I did an interview for, I can't remember which paper it was, but a couple of players came on, and the incredible support they gave to trans players just showed the depth of support within the game. And I mean, at the end of the game, it was terrible weather. I was being run ragged by players much younger than me, much faster than me. And as I came off the pitch at the end of the game, there's a whole stand chanting my name. And, being on the ground, it's a club that I've given so much to, given so much of my life to, and to hear my name being chanted there was just very special indeed.
The person that you are now, smiling, about to take aim at some more hardware in the next few weeks. If you could go back 8 years to you at the beginning, when you're at that moment, when you realize that I am trans, I am Paula, I must move on this now. If you could go back and talk to that version of you with a lot of fear, maybe some trepidation, what would you tell her?
Just don't be afraid. There's no point in looking back to what's happened in the past. You can't change the past, but my God, you can change your future every day, every little thing about it. Don't don't be afraid of anything. There's a big world out there. There's people incredibly accepting of you, and the bigots might have a loud voice. It might be overly amplified, but everyday life there is still that incredible support and just basic acceptance.
Hearing this is just the tonic I needed, and many of us who are watching and listening have needed. Paula, good luck over these next few weeks. Win a lot of hardware, and I'm going to tell you right now, I want you back. You always have a place at this forum. Always.
Good luck this season, and go get a win on the first game and keep it going. All the best.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you for joining us on Transposition Sports.
Thank you for having me.
Paula, we're going to keep our eye on you for these next couple weeks as you bring home the hardware, and we want you to come back to show it off. A couple of notes before we head out. First, I was approached a couple years ago to help with a book that would center around LGBTQ athletes aimed at middle school kids. Well, that book drops on May 13th. I got an advanced copy of it. Athlete is a Gender. And we're going to bring on the founders of this feast, Catherine Locke and Nicole Mellenby, here to Transposition Sports before the book drops. There's a lot of great stories in here from some heavy-hitting LGBTQ athletes, including a personal story by yours truly. A story of my youth and my recent past that's near and dear to my heart. If you want to know how you can order your copy, I'm going to put the information in the comment section underneath. And this is also a special week for me because on Saturday night, for the third season, I'm going to get to hit the football field again. And for my second season, as part of the Connecticut Ambush, we open against the New England Rebellion Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time kickoff out in Western Connecticut. I come into this game with a lot of gratitude. A lot of gratitude to have another opportunity to do something I never thought would have been open to me, but it is. As I told a teammate at practice earlier this week, in a lot of ways, I'm playing with house money. I want to send a special thanks first to the person who opened their arms and opened their team to me for my first team, Sonia Flusky, the administrator of Reapers Women's Football, and now a center on the Ambush. We're going to be anchoring the line together Saturday night. Thank you for taking a chance on me back in 2023. And thank you to Ambush owner Colleen Vaserica for allowing me another chance to play a game I love. And a shout out to head coach and defensive coordinator Ty Brees, offensive coordinator Les Moffitt, offensive assistants Gary Madgett and Lori Lindo and Dean Frazier, our line coach Alex Math, and our special teams coach Jen Garzone. And to my 35 sisters in orange and black, thank you for letting me be a part of all of this. Ambush on me, ambush on 3. 1, 2, 3, ambush. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.